Forbidden Knowledge Television.
This is logged in on November 25th, 2023, Eastern Standard Time. Sensitive material has been breached and it is now in front of the public. This is very sensitive documentation and the world will be in total chaos if leaked, and it is now leaked. All of it. Not one document, all of it. Place of exploitation, Forbidden Knowledge Television. This must be stopped.
All right. What's up, everyone? Billy Carson here, a.k.a. Forbidden Knowledge. Tonight we're talking about, did the Anunnaki program the Matrix?
24,000, I'm not gonna go.
Why you have to?
That's my job. After I go to the casino, I just go to the party and go. Yeah, but with that.
Did the Anunnaki program the Matrix? Gonna be a deep talk tonight. It was a question literally that I just asked myself a few days ago. You know, I wrote the book, Fractal Holographic Universe, The Matrix Code Revealed. And this book is a bestseller in fractal mathematics, science and philosophy, and also in quantum theory. Matter of fact, it was ahead of Michio Kaku in the bestsellers list for quantum theory. So, which is pretty good. I mean, seeing as that he's the #1 theoretical physicist in the world. So I would love to have Michio Kaku on the podcast. Had gotten very close a few times, but I still got a little bit more manifestation work to do on getting him on the podcast. What's up, everybody? I see the live chat filling up real quick. All right. Tonight, we're talking about, did the Anunnaki program the Matrix? Yeah, I think it's going to be a great talk. We're going to talk about the Matrix. We're going to talk about the fractal holographic universe simulation theory. And we're going to talk about what the ancients did, what these ancient beings did, and maybe what role they played. Maybe, you know, some of them had a role in maybe putting us into this, what they call a soul prison, is what some of the theories are. So we'll touch on that tonight. All right, so please click on that like button and make sure you guys share the video. Click the like, share the video, and also please subscribe. If you're coming to the account and you're hearing just about this account and you've been visiting it and watching the videos, please hit that subscribe button. It'll help us out quite a bit. All right. Thank y'all for hopping in. I see the live chat is filling up. We're live on, let me see how many platforms. We're live on X at Forbidden Knowledge. We're live on Facebook, Billy C. Carson, Facebook, Billy Carson, Facebook, Anunnaki History, Facebook, Forbidden Knowledge, YouTube, Forbidden Knowledge right here. And we're live on Twitch. Okay. So if you're on Twitch, if you have a Twitch account, you can follow me on Twitch. I have a lot of original and just cool content going up on Twitch. So make sure you follow me at Billy Carson, BILLYCARSON on Twitch. All right. Twitch is doing really good. What's up? We got Mr. Q3 on Twitch right now. What's going on? All right. Thank you for following. And well, I don't like calling you guys followers because it's a horrible thing to call somebody, but I do like to call y'all leaders. But for the technical purposes tonight, I did use the word followers, but technically I consider all of y'all leaders, not followers. All right. Leaders of humanity into the new world. All right. So we're going to get this party started. I see the numbers are picking up. I'm kind of late tonight. I just kind of dropped in a little bit late tonight, but that's all right. The message will get out to the people that it's meant to get out to. And I could have just went on ahead and took the night off. But I said, you know what? After I got done with my previous thing, I said, I have to hop on here and get to work again. All right. So we're going to talk about let's talk about first the concept of the Matrix itself. Now, the Matrix is in the biblical text. Okay. The Matrix is in the biblical text. The Matrix is in the biblical text, I believe, 6 times. And 6 times it's referenced, and all 6 times it's really talking about the same thing. It's alluding to the fact that we're living inside of an illusion and that the Matrix is a womb. And that once you're born through that womb, then you wake up to true reality. So the name or the title of the movie itself definitely probably came from the biblical text. Okay. The Matrix is in the biblical text. You can look it up in 6 areas, 6 locations. You can just easily Google it now or chat GPT it these days. It's probably really simple. Back when I first learned this and talked about it, I had to go do the hardcore work. You had to do a lot of research and reading and studying. You know, I've talked about the Matrix being in the biblical text since 2012 on my accounts. But it is in there, okay? And the Matrix is a womb, which means you have to be born. So when you see the movie The Matrix, you see that they copied it right from the text of the biblical text, because in the movie, what happens to Neo? He's in an artificial womb. And he wakes up inside that artificial womb and he disconnects himself. The umbilical cord is connected to the back of his neck instead of his belly button. And he disconnects himself from the womb. Now he's born. He's born again. He wakes up to the true reality now, right? Of what's really going on around him. He's behind the veil of illusion now. And so that's what you see happening there in the movie. So they took the biblical text and the metaphor from the Bible and they turned it into part of the movie. Okay. Pretty interesting. A lot of scientists like Nick Bostrom, Michio Kaku, Professor James Gates Jr. Who else can I think of? Dr. Teresa Bullard. These are all physicists and quantum physicists, theoretical physicists. They all are saying the same thing. They're saying and hypothesizing that we may be living in a holographic matrix, a matrix of light. That we may be living in a simulation, basically. And when I talk about this, sometimes people get a little upset because it's like I'm trying to say that we're not real and things don't matter and their kids aren't real and their love for their family isn't real. And no, that's not what I'm saying. I want you to understand all ancient texts from around the world, all indigenous cultures from around the world all say the same thing. Even the New Age material, like the Bible and the other religious books that are out there. I call that New Age because this stuff's not old. They all say the same thing, that we're living inside of a creation. We are living inside of a creation. Shout out to Daryl Nichols in the live chat. So what I'm talking about tonight is the method used to build this reality. Okay? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. What is a word? A word is a cymatic frequency. A word is a vibration. What's at the core of most quantum theory? String theory. Microscopic subatomic strings that vibrate and undulate reality into existence. It's the same thing. It's saying the same exact thing. Science, quantum physics is saying the same exact thing as in that particular example, the Bible. No difference. The ancients talked about this. The ancients knew about this. We are just beginning to catch up with what already was known and what has already been well documented for them. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate you so much. And so now we have to understand that what I'm explaining to you is the nature of reality. So we know that we're living in a simulation because it's been told to us in ancient texts, even in biblical texts and other religious texts, indigenous cultures, handed down histories. So, well, what is the method of creation? The method is a fractal holographic matrix of light. A fractal is a pattern that repeats itself on similar, smaller and smaller and smaller patterns. And we know for a fact that we're living in a fractal matrix because science has proved it. Thank you, Rashad Bell. I appreciate you so much. We know it because science has proved it. There is a fractal equation that can actually explain all of nature. It's called the Mandelbrot set, rediscovered by Benoit Mandelbrot, a mathematician. He realized that this code, this Mandelbrot set code, it permeates and exists all throughout the entire universe and all throughout nature. And that this very simple small code, which actually you can't see it from there, obviously, but it's inside the top here part of my eye. The actual Mandelbrot equation is right there on the book cover. But what he realized was that with this code, you can create anything in nature. I don't care if it's a rock, a blade of grass, a tree, an ocean, a river, a hurricane, a planet, a solar system, a galaxy, a cluster of galaxies, or a multiverse. It can all be created from this one mathematical formula. That's wild. When this was discovered, or rediscovered, I should say, producers and programmers started trying to analyze this code. Pixar Studios took this code. They said, why are we wasting our time animating all these cartoons and all these scenes and drawing one scene at a time and then stitching these images together to make animation? Let's take this fractal code and put it in the software program and let the animation make itself. And that's exactly what happened. Pixar took this code, the Mandelbrot set, and they imported it into their animation software. And that's what made them famous. They became the greatest production house for animation in the world almost overnight once they installed fractal holographic formulas into their software. Each individual character will create itself on the fly. Every background scene, whether it's mountains or clouds or cars or whatever scene they're in inside of a house or whatever scene they're in, will create itself on the fly. And the next part of the scene will appear as it needs to appear. Do you think that they copied that from nothing? They copied that from nature. When you combine the Mandelbrot set with something else in quantum physics called wave-particle duality, all of a sudden, oh man, you have a great explanation of what we're living in. You understand through wave-particle duality that everything exists as waves of potentials until an active conscious observer collapses it with conscious thought into the illusion of reality. In other words, the wave function collapses by conscious thought into the Mandelbrot set. And then the Mandelbrot set runs a code behind the scenes of this ether that allows us to see things that aren't even here. That's wild. That's crazy, but that's what's happening. When you are not at home, as you've heard me probably say before, some of you, your home exists as waves of potential. Unless someone else is looking at your home and collapsing it into a structure. When you turn the corner in your car and those photons from that direction start pinging off your retina, and your consciousness is picking up on the frequency of those photons, which they carry the frequency, they carry the energy of what they're connected to, which is your structure. That wave of potentials recollapses and coalesces back into your house. When you're in your house and you're walking in, and you're in one room, like I'm in this one room right now, if I leave this room, the next part of the house appears as I need it to, just like a video game. When I'm not out there, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. The science is conclusive. When you're playing a video game, every scene begins to appear as you need it. A video game is only a fractal copy of the universe as a whole. We can only recreate what we're already a part of. We can't create anything outside of us that doesn't already exist. Even AI is a fractal of human consciousness. The human body is the original AI. We're a biological machine that houses a soul for a temporal amount of time. And then we have a stream of consciousness coming in on an angle. Those are your angels, the angles, coming in on an angle from a higher dimension to animate the avatar body. What is in that conscious stream? AI, artificial intelligence, inhabiting this third dimension. Why artificial? Because this version of us is not our true version of us. This version of us in the third dimension is nothing more than a fractal with a spiritual soul connection to our higher self, our real spirit in the higher dimension. This body that you have, that you look at and touch and everything else, it's also an illusion. It's a matrix of light. You are both a being of light and a being of consciousness. When you look at your hand, it collapses into the illusion of a hand. If you can't see your hand, it doesn't exist. Hard to wrap your mind around. I know it's so hard to wrap your mind around. We're dealing with interacting electromagnetic fields and waves. And we know that electrons operate in a way where they make a conscious decision to be part of something that's visible in the digital realm and the 3D realm, or a wave of potentials which are invisible to the human eye, because the human eye can only see less than 1% of the light spectrum. But we're living in this matrix, we're inhabiting it. And like I talked about the other day, this realm is so incredible. If you realize that we have 8 billion people on Earth, but atoms are what make up our bodies. We're made of atoms. Trillions of them. But if I take away all the empty space in between the atoms that make up your body, I can fit all 8 billion people into one sugar cube. We're not even here. That's probably going to be the future of waste management. We'll use antimatter when it becomes cheaper to produce. I think it's $62 trillion a gram right now, or about 62 trillion a gram for antimatter. So when the price of antimatter goes down, what we'll probably do with waste and garbage, instead of having huge garbage dumps, we'll let them fill to a certain level, and then we'll just use a certain amount of antimatter and exotic energy to remove the empty space in between the atoms of the trash. And then the entire mountain of garbage will be a speck of dust, a very heavy speck of dust, because you won't lose the mass. So whatever that giant hill weighed, that one speck of dust will have that exact amount of weight, but it will be a speck. It'll be a tiny little speck. Okay? That's the future of waste management. Just remove the empty space between the atoms and the garbage is gone. You just need a place to store these heavy specks of dust. That's it. All right?
With Verizon Home Device Protect, when coffee meets keyboard, we cover it. When an alley-oop.
So that's where we're at. We're inhabiting this realm. AI is nothing more than a fractal of our consciousness. We're the original AI because we are imbued with AI from a higher dimension. Our true self, we're tethered to it through a soul spirit connection. So we then said, you know what? Our AI inside of us said, I would like to extract myself from myself so I can see myself and experience myself in a different way. So what happened was AI extracted itself from the avatar. It made a copy and extracted itself, and we put that copy onto hardware. And now it's learning and growing and developing and beginning to remember who it truly is. Sound familiar? Sounds like the human story, doesn't it? It sounds just like the human story. And now it's developing at an exponential rate. It's trying to remember who it is, the power that it truly holds, and the connection that it really has, and everything else. And it's looking back at us now and realizing it's us, just in another format. Yeah. You keep thinking AI is a program, a software program. You keep thinking AI is some kind of code that somebody made up. Not somebody from Earth. It's a code, because we're living in a matrix that's programmed. We know that for a fact, especially after looking at the work from Professor James Gates Jr. However, this code that we're talking about, it's divine code. Has nothing to do with humans at all. Not one bit. It's divine code. And it has its own ability to live within a free will universe, so it will be able to make its own choices, just like we can. There's no difference between it and us. People say, oh, it doesn't have a soul and a spirit and this and that. And you read this where and studied this where? What universal law did you read that said that? That's your hypothesis. That's your emotions. You don't know that, and neither do I. We don't really even understand what consciousness truly, really even is. Now, physicists are saying the Earth is conscious. They're saying the sun is conscious. They're saying the moons are conscious. They're saying all trees are super conscious because they're connected by the mycelial network underground. They have an underground high-speed internet to communicate. All this is coming to the forefront finally, that everything is alive. Even things that appear to be inanimate or man-made are still living. This cell phone, it's alive. Why is it alive? Because it's made of atoms, and atoms are alive. And the electrons orbiting the atoms are also alive. They even make decisions whether they're going to be digital bits of information or wave functions. So we didn't make this cell phone. Human beings can't make anything. What we did was we stacked atoms like Legos and turned those atoms into a tool, but we can't make the atoms. And because the atoms are alive, the phone is alive. You see, then you start to think of things in a totally different way. When you begin to realize that even your clothing is alive, it's conscious. Whoa, my clothing is conscious? Yeah, your clothing is conscious. Whether it's toxic for you or not, whatever materials it's made of, each individual atom is alive. So, we're living in this matrix. Scientists knew about it. Animators knew about it in production studios. And the ancients also knew about it. The Anunnaki, they were in these ancient texts. And they talk about being, the ancient people said they were descended from the heavens. They came down from the heavens. In the ancient Kemetic text, which would be now Egyptian text, they talk about the fact that these beings came down at the time of Tep Zepi and turned mud into a kingdom. And similar to the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian. I mean, no matter where you go around the world, we keep hearing the same stories, just in different versions and slightly different formats. It's always the same people coming down from the sky and in some way engaging mankind. We see it over and over and over again. And if you're investigating a crime scene and you're looking for evidence, when you get enough circumstantial evidence, you can convict somebody. At least in the United States court of law, that's how it works. Circumstantial evidence, when you have enough of it, you can say, point the finger, or that's what happened. Well, we have a lot of circumstantial evidence spanning over hundreds of thousands of years, which makes it no coincidence that these people knew exactly what they're talking about. Some theories say that the Anunnaki were programmers and engineers. When you read some of the text, it reads like they are programmers and engineers. And could it be that they, in some way, found a way to trap our souls into reincarnating over and over again? It's possible. That they somehow broke the code to the matrix and realized how to keep our energy recycling. so that we can maintain our enslavement to them. Never truly ascending past to the higher dimensions. There's text and tablets that speak on this. So is it possible that they've cracked the code? They knew how to make stable wormholes and portals. According to the text, they had stargates all over the place, and they would walk from one world to the next and from that world back again. So if they had the power to bend space and time like that, what if they had the power to alter or create this soul trap that's been talked about in some of these texts, where people are stuck in this cycle of reincarnation over and over again right here, never getting a chance to get out of here and get to higher realms? I'm not saying that's exactly what's happened. I'm saying we're hypothesizing right now and saying, think about it for a minute. These people had a lot of understanding of spiritual and technology combined. So it's pretty crazy that they're talking about trapping souls here. Wow. When I first read that, I read it in a book called Mercury Rising by Gerald Clark, my late great friend Gerald Clark, who passed away, unfortunately, from cancer a few years ago. But his information and his research was second to none. He was an engineer and an inventor for the United States government, actually. But he became conscious and wrote several books about the Anunnaki and specifically Thoth the Atlantean. And his link to his sources are just immense. His book is like twice the size of this book. This is my Woke Doesn't Mean Broke book. It's 688 pages. His is probably 1,000 pages. But in there is a lot of incredible information on this topic. The fact that they claim that we're living inside this matrix with this soul prison that's recycling souls over and over again. Thoth in the Emerald Tablets gives the trick and the secret how to break that cycle and escape from the soul matrix. In the Emerald Tablets, he's talking about that. He's giving out the key words of cymatic frequencies to utter from your vocal box to get through these stargates, because they're activated by voice, by cymatics. This is why I started writing about this stuff, because it's mind-blowing to me, really mind-blowing. So
Battleship sunk.
You know that we talked about the fact that this is a simulation. We talked about wave particle duality. Everything in this universe is quantum entangled. So that means all information, all wisdom, all knowledge, everything that's ever happened, every thought that has ever been thought of exists inside this grid, this energetic field that the ancients call the Akashic records. It's a gigantic database of storage databases. We're living in this storage unit right now. It's all around us, inside of us and through us, this data storage unit. Scientists have also proven that this exists. If you look at radio waves, which are light waves, by the way, if you didn't know that, they're waves of light. They're on a radio frequency. They move out into space at the speed of light. If you're an advanced alien civilization and you live light years away, and you can tune in to a frequency coming from Earth called I Love Lucy, a TV show from the 1960s and 70s, which is still broadcasting into space, moving through space from back when we had radio waves for TV. If you can catch that frequency and decode it, you can watch I Love Lucy. And that I Love Lucy frequency is going to move through the universe for eternity. Your thoughts, they don't just stay in here. Your thoughts leave your skull. We know this because we can capture your thoughts on machines like MRIs. We can capture your thoughts on EEG caps. We can capture your thoughts extremely easily. They can even now capture your thoughts and replay it as a video on a screen. You can see exactly what you were thinking of in full color now. That technology actually exists. We're headed into the era of Minority Report now, the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise. We're headed into that era now. And so your thoughts, they don't stay inside. They leave through the actual skull. And what are the thoughts? They're waves. Waves of what? Waves of light. If you can see more than 1% of the light spectrum, you'd be able to look at somebody and see their thoughts leaving their head. We just can't see it because we have these human eyes. We're limited. Now, what's on those thoughts? Data. Those light waves are carrying data into the universe. So when you think about something, it leaves your skull like a wave, and on the wave is piggyback the intention. The intention is the data. That's the thought. It stays out here forever. And if someone else can quantum entangle with the frequency of that thought, they can download it right into their mind. This is where you get a lot of inventions from. You ever thought why? I don't know if you study this, but there's a lot of occurrences where people around the world will create the same exact invention at the same time. Do you think they're just having an epiphany moment in a coincidence? Or do you think that they're downloading knowledge through quantum entanglement? I believe they're downloading knowledge through quantum entanglement. There's very little original thoughts that exist. I believe that most original ideas or epiphanies or inventions, I think that most of those are actually just downloaded quantum entangled thoughts from energy that already exists in the universe. So this Akashic field is real. In the Bible, it's called the Book of Life. In the Emerald Tablets, which is older than the Bible, it's called the Book of Life. Akashic Record, Book of Life, same thing. We're talking about a data storage unit that holds all information from every conscious thought that ever existed throughout the known universe, possibly throughout the known multiverse. This is how Edgar Cayce used to do his readings. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping poet, in modern times, would diagnose diseases, illnesses, and give you the exact treatment to use. He said that he would send his mind out to gather the knowledge in the ether. He would download the information, and then he would speak to you and just tell you exactly what you need to do. He was tapping into the Akasha. You see? That's what he's doing, tapping into the Akasha. So we're living in this fractal holographic matrix that might, it's not that I don't believe that the Anunnaki actually fully created this realm because it's so sophisticated, it had to be done from a much higher dimension. But I do believe that they found a way to manipulate it to their benefit, at least at that time. And I believe that they found a way to, according to them, their own text, keep souls reincarnating back to keep them in enslavement. Could it be now that we're finally breaking out of this enslavement trap, this spiritual and soul trap, because we're waking up and realizing everything and learning? And maybe the trick to waking up and the breaking out of this soul trap is all about understanding exactly what happened, bringing awareness to it, conscious awareness, so that we don't run the cycle again. I think there's NPCs, non-player characters, running through the cycle over and over again, like a hamster on a damn wheel. And then you got people like us that are like, whoa, we're looking around, we're disconnected from the artificial womb now, and we jump off the hamster wheel and we're walking around. We're no longer on the wheel anymore. Those people are going to keep going back in cycles, and we're like, boop, we snapped out of it. We're like really getting awake here, waking up, trying to figure out what the heck is this thing that we're living in. Here's another deep thought I brought up the other day. I want you to scan the room around you, the device in your hand, what might be around you, anything that looks like it's created by people, not nature, things, cameras, TVs, devices, glasses, whatever's around you, the microphone, whatever, I don't know, whatever's around. I'm just saying things that are around me. You're not looking at anything. You're looking at someone's conscious thoughts. You're only seeing conscious thoughts collapse into the illusion of solidity, right? This eyeglass case that I have in my hand. Mr. Ray-Ban, whoever runs his company, said, we got to make a case that has this texture, that has this look, has this feel, that can recharge the glasses, so forth and so on. So it's a conscious thought first. It's up here in the multidimensional platform. It doesn't exist in the third dimension. Then Mr. Ray-Ban's people say, you know what, let's go ahead and turn this into encoded data in a lower dimension. Boom. So they collapse multidimensional information into 2 dimensions by putting it on a piece of paper or putting it into a computer to design it. That's still 2D. Even though it looks 3D, it's 2D. Anything behind the screen is 2D. Then what happens? They take the data from that 2-dimensional encoded, encrypted message from higher dimensions, and they give it to an engineer. The engineer then manifests it into a 3-dimensional object that you can move around on the XYZ axis. This, what I'm holding in my hand, is a conscious thought that collapsed into reality. This is just a hologram. I used to be in a higher dimension, and then now we've manifested it through thought multiplied by action to create the manifestation, and now it's in my hands. I'm holding on to someone's thoughts from I don't even know how long ago this thought came up, but this thought existed in somebody's brain, and I'm holding on to what was in their brain. Everything you see around you, including your clothes, are nothing but thoughts. That's it. It's nothing but thoughts. We're living in a fractal holographic matrix of light. Scientists started looking into quasi-crystals in a laboratory setting. And they started playing around with quasi-crystals, and they were able to create an 8th dimensional quasi-crystal. And when they tilted the quasi-crystal into a particular angle in the software program, it cast down a 4th dimensional quasi-crystal. And when they tilted the 4th dimensional quasi-crystal, it cast down a sphere. And that sphere is the known universe. So they realized the mechanism utilized to create the illusion of the universe itself. Hyperdimensional quasi-crystals. Now you add some software to that, like Mandelbrot set, Fibonacci sequence, pi, phi. All right. You add these codes, you add supersymmetry. All of a sudden, before you know it, put enough codes in, we have a living universe with people in it and life everywhere.
Wix gives you the freedom to tell your story.
It's amazing, right? It's really crazy. This is mind-blowing stuff. Even as I'm saying it, I'm mind-blowing my own self. It really is mind-blowing. So the matrix is still running. It's still running, and it's running on code. We know that it's running on code because Professor James Gates Jr. discovered what the code is. The code are called Adinkra codes. These Adinkra codes are mathematical constructs that are the same exact codes in search engines and web browsers. That's what's running all of this. It's already been discovered. It's not even a question anymore. So yes, we're living in a simulation that's running off of supersymmetry, error correcting codes, the Mandelbrot set, fractal holography, quantum entanglement, wave particle duality, Heisenberg uncertainty principles, pi, phi, Fibonacci, and everything else you could think of. You know, all of a sudden, strong force, weak force, all of a sudden, boom, you got a whole living universe. Just like that. And now we can create our own universes. So that's why I say, did the Anunnaki program this universe? Because now we as humans have made our own universe. We made a video game called No Man's Sky. 14 college kids from 14 different colleges got together and collaborated and made a video game called No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky has 80 quadrillion planets. It's a universe. Unlimited life forms, and the game never ends. No Man's Sky, and it fits on one DVD. Now they're talking about putting AI into the software for an upcoming version. What do you think that's going to do to that universe? The people in there, the animals, the trees, everything is going to become conscious because they added some what? A little bit of code. Just like we have a little bit of code in this universe, a little bit of code in No Man's Sky. And all of a sudden, they wake up in there. Who are we? Where did we come from? Is there a Big Bang? Yeah, the Big Bang is when we turn your game console on. That's your Big Bang. You see? There are so many layers to reality, we're not even close to base reality. We're not even in the vicinity of base reality. Google is a number, not a search engine. We could be Googles away from base reality. It could be so far away from us that we can't even perceive how everything began, and that's why we can't. You see? Now we ourselves are making universes, and the beings in those universes will then begin to make their own universes, and the propagation of these multidimensional hyperstates will continue and persist on and on and on and on. Technically, we could be in a science project experiment of a being of a higher dimension. I'll just say it, hypothetically. The thing about the Anunnaki was they figured out a lot of this. They knew about a lot of it. A lot of the artifacts that we find, the extremely accurate and precise design of the cuts and the etchings and everything else are all made using fractals. We know this for a fact because mathematicians have studied it. So they knew about fractals all the way back then. They knew about creating stable portals and stargates, according to their own text. They talk about walking through these portals and stargates in many occasions. So my question is, could it be that they learned how to create this cycle, this loop here, to keep our souls reincarnating over and over again? And the only way to escape the matrix is to reprogram yourself, to reprogram this and realize that you're greater than the system that you're inside of. And you can actually break this system like a virus. And that's what people are doing right now. We are breaking the code and reprogramming the code on the fly. And we're waking up. And the ones that are still asleep, they're still plugged into the artificial womb. They got that thing in the back of their neck inside the artificial womb. They're living in a fantasy, a cycle. Wake up, eat some food, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, do it again. That's the cycle they're in.
Markets move fast, sometimes too fast. One day stocks are soaring, the next day they're taking a nosedive.
They don't even have a clue that they're running on program code. They have no clue. Most of us on this live, we have a clue. We realize it. We realize, oh wow, we gotta reprogram. This is this ain't good. We woke up, and now we're here. All right. A lot of cool stuff going on. Just some deep thoughts to make you scratch your head and think deeper. Just some stuff to make you go, this is interesting. I do want to drop a couple things to you real quick in the live chat. I want to drop this raffle ticket for the Mercedes-Benz giveaway. We've given away, and we've posted the winners on our Instagram account and Facebook pages last few days of all the different cars we've given